Hello and welcome to all of you astrology friends out there. This is the horoscope for all the signs for February of 2023 in a nutshell. So later on I will do, so this is definitely for the people who want to have really concise, precise and short videos. And then in the upcoming weeks, I'm going to continue with doing the separate videos for February horoscope for each sign, and also the full moon. That is going to be a really, really exciting, interesting full moon in Leo. So, but this is the February, you could say, resume, or whatever for all the signs. And I want to focus on, as always, the aspects rather than where a planet is transiting. But there is some in February. The good news is that all the planets are going direct during the whole month of February. So that is something new that shows that we are stepping into new energies. And typically with the Mercury retrograde, Mars retrograde that we had in the past, it's a lot about reassessment and redoing stuff, rethinking, and that can be exhausting. And now things go forward, and that's definitely for a lot of people very, very positive. Now, what I'm going to focus on is the Mercury conjunction with Pluto. And that is like for the first 10 days of the month, you could say, the first up until the 10th of February, it's Mercury-Pluto energy. And I'm going to have a look where that falls in your chart, where Capricorn is. And then the later part of the month is actually the wide Uranus-Saturn square. It used to be very tight, now it's very wide. That is going to be activated by the Sun in Aquarius and Mercury in Aquarius. So the Sun, which is like from the beginning of February, the first 18 days, it will be the Sun that is going to, definitely with the full moon as well, around the 5th, it's going to be very Uranian-Saturnial energy there. It's going to square off first the Sun with Uranus, and then it's going to conjoin with Saturn. The same repeats itself with the planet Mercury. So later on in the month, approximately around, you could say, Mercury does that around the 22nd of February and onwards. There's going to be Mercury squaring with Uranus in Aquarius, and from Aquarius to Taurus. And then it's going to conjoin with Saturn at the very end of the month. You could say even the 1st of March. The 1st of March, by the way, the 1st and the 2nd of March are really, really culmination days. Why? Because we're going to have Mercury conjoining with Saturn. So the truthfulness and the reality of things are going to be so clear for us, for better or for worse, because Mercury-Saturn is what we worked hard for on a mental level and on the truthfulness of things and on our responsibilities. And then Venus also will join with Jupiter. So a Venus-Jupiter conjunction in Aries. So that is a very culmination period, and Venus conjunct Jupiter is very positive. So we are going towards, in other words, it's important to say that in February, because we are going towards clarity. It's an important thing to know. And how we are going to achieve this clarity is definitely by the mind and the communication, because the focus planet of February is definitely Mercury, with bumping into Pluto, and then afterwards, the second half of the month, bumping into Uranus and bumping into Saturn. What does it mean, general, for everyone? Where I'm going to explain the Mercury-Pluto conjunction has to deal with what I've been talking about in December with the Mercury retrograde, because it's now coming to, you could say, culmination point of understanding. Pluto is about secrets. It's about the things that are not easy to talk about. It doesn't always have to mean in a negative way secrets, but sometimes the things that are hidden and the things that are not easy to deal with on the surface. So we people tend to postpone that. And now with the Mercury Pluto, so for the first half of the month, the first 10 days, you could say, it is ideal to have those difficult conversations. But when we have the courage to do so, we transform our lives. And some people will say, no, thank you very much. And yeah, they will have to keep on. We have free will, right? We have to keep on then with that energy. And next time it's going to be even tougher, you could say, or even a bit more in the face if we're not dealing it now with this Mercury Pluto. So we have the free will if we go with the energy or against it. It's of course the part, you could say, that needs the most bravery. That is going to be in the long run the best option. But everyone needs to feel how they are feeling safe to do so and strong enough to go for the consequences, because what is going to be said is going to have consequences, for better or for worse. Sometimes it can be a good thing, Mercury, Pluto together. You say you're fancying someone and you're saying that you have an eye on them, for instance, and your life changes because of that. And it's that kind of energy, but it can also mean like, I must have a difficult conversation with my husband or with my wife or with my girlfriend or boyfriend. And something that I'm not so proud of, but I have to say it because it is hidden now, and it gets more and more energy, and it gets more and more difficult to hide, and it doesn't feel right. It's that kind of energy. And then in the second part of the month, when Mercury will bump into Uranus, we have intuition, we have insights, and we have ideas. And because of those ideas, again, they are going to have consequences, because after the Uranian aspect with Mercury, we have the Mercury conjoining with Saturn. So first Uranus comes and then Saturn comes. I personally, but this is totally a personal thing, I like it more when it's upside down. So first the Saturnal, responsible energy, and then the newness. But here it is God's will, you could say, or the will of the universe, the will of nature, that we first have the inside, and then we will be facing a lot of responsibility and consequences. So I also will explain in what kind of field that is. So let's get started. A very insightful month, in other words, but also truthfulness. So for Aries people, this Mercury Pluto, this is a repetition of what I've been saying in December. Mercury Pluto is in your 10th house. So this is all about the truth coming out when it comes to your work, authenticity coming out in your connection, in your relationship with a significant parent. I say a significant parent because sometimes it's the mother, the 10th house, and some astrologers say it's the father. I mean, it's a parent. Let's put it that way. And so it's either one or the other. And if you're not working, it can mean that something becomes very clear for you when it comes to how you want to profile yourself to the world and what your energy that you're giving off in the world, how important that is for you and others. But definitely, if you want to have breakthroughs, if you want to have that difficult talk with your boss, if you want to have that difficult and if you need some courage, you can tap into that energy to do so, because it's the choice is, I want to be authentic here and I want to speak my truth, Mercury Pluto. But it will have confrontations or consequences. It might be not so bad, not at all. And if you can deal with it, if you say, I can deal with that, you can go and after what you really want, and it's gonna be better for you, more authentic, more real, but it's gonna demand a lot of courage. And you know what I always say about Aries people? They are the most courageous ones of the zodiac. That doesn't mean to say that other signs are not courageous, not at all. But I mean, in typology, or how do you say that? The archetype of the Aries person is the one that is very scared, but is doing it anyway. The 11th house is also activated very much the second part of the month, which is where this Mercury in Aquarius is. So there is for you, and it fits in very well, It's like almost for a lot of you, you're going to stop doing what you're doing when it comes to your work, and you have new goals. You have new ideas. Mercury squaring up to Uranus. And it will, at the end of the month and beginning of March, conjoining with Saturn. So it's going to have really profound structures and consequences on the field of your goals, but also on your relationships with other people, connections, friends, like-minded people. So you could say less is more here. You could say less friends is better than having 10 friends. And when something really, really tough happens, you realize, there's no one here. So it's better that one friend instead of 10 so-called friends. That is very Saturnal, you could say, this energy here in your 11th house. But it's not bad, or it's neutral, but it's what you make out of it. So for you, you are very much in the spotlight. You could say it is for you about truthfulness when it comes to your work, your career, and your friendships. Who is important for you, and who do you want to be as a friend, and what kind of new ideas do you want to go after, and demands a little bit more structure there. Taurians, for you, this is happening, this Mercury, in your 9th house and in your 10th house. So first of all, the Mercury-Pluto is in a fellow Earth sign. So for you, this revelation of truth is a bit easier. Why? Because this Mercury-Pluto in your 9th house is trining your Taurian energy. So there could be, well, if you are traveling around this time, there could be some revelations and some truths that are going to come out. But the thing is, it's for your own good, you could say. And whatever it's going to be that is coming out there whilst you are traveling, or whilst you are reading or teaching or learning, the 9th house is a lot with your connection with the universe, your connection with the divine. Whatever comes up, you feel strong enough in yourself. No matter what. So that is a very, very nice energy for you, this Mercury-Pluto there. Definitely for the Taurians who've been waiting to speak their truth. It's time now. You have the courage to do so. And you will see that it is easier than you thought. Then in the second half of the month, this Mercury is meeting up with Uranus and Saturn in your 10th house of work. So there lies a bit more the emphasis on work. If you're not working, then it's your, you could say, your task in the universe, or what do you want to do for, the people around you, or a parent. It could be that as well. There could be some related to work, definitely new ideas, absolutely. And all of a sudden they come, those ideas, but they need a little bit more structure, and they need a little bit more effort on your behalf to figure out how you are going to do that for the future. But all in all, very interesting energies for you. And definitely, if you have been dealing with adversities when it comes to your work, you're going to have those new ideas, but you will have to be realistic and change some things, do things differently, getting out of your comfort zone to apply newness in your work. Geminis, this is your 8th and your 9th house. So this Mercury-Pluto is very deep stuff for you in the 8th house. Revelations, truths that are coming out, and that has to do with your own psychology. Yes, on the surface level, it can have to do with money that you share with other people, and conversations around that. That is not, in itself, it's not always easy, right? If you share, if you're getting, for instance, an inheritance, or the taxes, or money that you share in investment with a business partner, these are not always the easiest conversations. But again, as I said in the beginning, if you go for authenticity and truthfulness, it's ultimately not the easiest way, but in the long run, it's so much easier for you, and to be authentic and truthful to yourself and to others. Now, this insight that I was talking about with Mercury touching Uranus and Saturn is in a very mental house, which is the 9th house. So this means that you're going to have epiphanies. You definitely will have some wake-up calls that has to do with how you are an element of the whole, of the universe, and your part in that. And you can have some really, really wake-up calls, but it demands structure, how you want to make it more, manifest it more in your real day-to-day life, you could say. And that is going to be more towards the midst and the end of the month. Cancerians, very important time for the Cancerians when it comes to their relationships. The 7th and the 8th house are triggered here. So the 7th house is definitely your personal relationship. Whether you are single or in a relationship, there is a change going on that is very transformational, and that is dealing with information. So it could be the person that you are with is telling you something that you didn't know of, that was secret, or the other way around. But whatever it is, it's about speaking their truth, and the relationship because of that will change. So that can be something for the good, or that you would say, ooh, they're speaking their truth and they have suppressed it such a long time. So be prepared that these are not going to be the easiest conversations at all, but know that when you go through this, in the long run, it's better. And you're going to relate in a different way with people, in a more deep way, and not so much more on the surface level. Now, Mercury in your 8th house then. So we could be really talking about money here with a spouse, for instance, or a business partner, could be that as well. Because the 8th house is the resources that we share with someone. So there could be an insight that you're having to improve the investments that you're doing, but it's gonna take a lot of discipline here, with the Mercury then conjoining with Saturn in your 8th house. Discipline of how you are going to deal with the new formula, you could say, in how you are going to apply your resources and some other personal resources, how you are going to improve that. On another level, if you're saying, Veerle, I don't have any resources with other people, it's more about intimacy. So there could be some revelations here and some truths coming out around intimacy, whether you are in a relationship one-to-one or not. I mean, in a romantic relationship or not. It could mean that things need to be revealed here, and that demands discipline, that demands also a testing time, basically, of those new ideas that you have to implement them. It's demanding a lot of discipline for the structure to be healthy, basically. Leos, your 6th house and your 7th house. So in your 6th house, this is all about your work and your health. So the routines that you're doing, there might be coming up, if you are a Leo that is struggling a little bit with their health, or that is something is going on, it might now come out. So that is a good thing. Mercury, Pluto, the truth might come out here that you've been digging for a long time. That could be also a bit tough to realize, but then at least you know where you're standing. For others, it's more their work. So there could be some truthfulness coming out that has to do with your work, and that you realize that, and because of that, you can make changes and transformations. Also in your routines. So it could mean that your routines change drastically as from February, and that is for the long run a good thing, to improve your routines, to have a bit more discipline in your day-to-day routines, because they are going to help you not only with your work, but also with your health. And then it shifts into more the focus on relationships. So the later part of February, of course, you're going to have already that full moon in your sign on the 5th. So it's going to reveal already a lot of you and another significant person. If you're not in a relationship and you are single, there's definitely here shifts in your attitude towards relationships, because there could be a conversation that was very insightful, very new, very fresh, but now it's not the easiest thing to make a structure around it because of this Mercury Saturn. So it's a testing time for the relationship. Again, I know you, dear Leos, definitely with this Sun and Saturn there and Mercury in your 7th house, this is not the easiest energy for relationships, but it's about responsibilities. It's about testing time. So it really depends on what you've been doing before that time. When you are definitely in a relationship. When you're not in a relationship, it's about the fears that can come up to start a relationship, and you want to shift that. You want to do that in a more real way, and in a way that, how can I change myself into the person that I want to be and that I also want to attract? So exuding the same values, so to speak. Virgos, first of all, the Mercury Pluto is very favorable for you. It's in the 5th house. And this Mercury Pluto in the 5th house in Capricorn trines your Virgo energy. So it could mean really for you that if you do have children, they are going through a transformation. You could have some really deep conversations with them, and they go up a level, so to speak. And in adulthood, whether they are 3 years old or 20, it doesn't matter. It's that transformational effect. But it trines your energy, so it's like you are supporting this very much, and that gives you this very content feeling. On another level, this has to do with a hobby or with how you enjoy yourself. That could be really, really something that has to do with communication that you definitely enjoy incredibly. And that is a hobby of yours, and maybe an old one because of this Mercury retrograde that you are picking up again. So definitely for Virgos, a lot of energy to get in touch with their heart and with their child again, the childhood, right? And that is so lovely for those Virgos that are suppressing their child in themselves, right? It's enjoyment, and it's enjoyable energy. For some of you, who are who are single, it could mean indeed a start of a relationship. And my goodness me, what a deep one that's going to be with this Mercury Pluto. So it could mean that a lover or you reveal something very significant towards each other. And that has a transformational effect on both of you. Now, the Aquarian energy is your 6th house. It's your house. It's the day-to-day routines that you're doing. It's your health. So that could be a new insight that you're having with this Mercury squaring up to Uranus. And you really feel that because Mercury is you, so very excited, maybe a new program that you're going to do, a new, I don't know, what you're going to do, but maybe a new diet or a new routine that is definitely something quite alternative because it's Uranus. But then Saturn comes up, right? Mercury goes towards Saturn, and you are going to see the results very quickly, for better or for worse again. Maybe it depends on what you're going to do already. Now, Virgos, knowing Virgos, right? Virgos are, when they say that they're going to do something, they're really up to that, and they really stick to that. And that is because they are so, they want things to go perfect. And so this Mercury conjoining with Saturn can show for you, especially the beginning of March, it can show for you the result of all the hard work you've been doing before that. So that's nice. Librans, this is your 4th house and your 5th house. I've been talking about it a lot in December as well with the Mercury Pluto in your 4th house. This is really deep stuff, considering on one level, it could have to do with real estate, so which is a bit more on a financial level. You could say that truths come out here and that transformations are done here because the structures were not good, and you have to do something about it, and you're doing that, and here's the transformation. So a lot of you will sell, buy houses, and so on. Could also have to do with family, with a parent, that you're thinking about a parent or communicating with a parent in a more authentic way because you had that difficult conversation in the first days of February, the first 10 days. If you've been doing that, you can be sure that it's good for your emotional well-being. So on another level, this is about your emotional well-being. This is understanding yourself, what you need, what your needs are. I mean, the fourth house is the house of the moon, and it's what you need in life to be happy. And to be more authentic, you need to connect with that. And as I said, Librans are people who know what other people want, but when it comes to themselves, it's a bit more tricky. But it's certainly worthwhile to do so. And then this Mercury in your fifth house is in Aquarius, which is a fellow air sign. So this for you is a bit easier than for other signs, because this Mercury, you could have a new idea around hobbies, around your children, around a project, something that you want to do and that you want to implement, but it will take organization and structure. So you could be wanting to do a new hobby, for instance, but you must have a good structure to be able to do it. That's a bit like that, with the Saturn there as well in your fifth house. Scorpios, the third house and the fourth house. So Scorpio, wow, this is all about deep conversations for you. And you know how to do that because you're a Scorpio. And but even for you now, this can be really an invitation to become very real in a conversation with someone in the neighborhood, because it's in your third house with a sibling, but also with a communication that you need to do, for instance, for work, or if you have your own business. This could mean some PR that you're going to do that is totally different from what you've used to do and is way more real for you, but it demands a lot of courage. It's a bit in that area. It could also mean that you're going to get some messages that are a bit like, what? Where does that come from? Mercury, Pluto, the messages that were hidden and that were, but if there's one sign that can deal with that in a very grounded way, it is Scorpios, because they find that, you could say, as an opportunity to be more real and authentic. So it might not be the easiest thing if you're getting a message that is not so nice, but it shows that, especially with also this Mercury then shifting into your fourth house of your emotions, it could definitely mean that there is an improvement of that in a bit of a longer run. So when the second part of the month is more connected to your fourth house, where Mercury is going to have that epiphany. And so you could be having epiphanies around real estate, the fourth house, around your emotions, understanding on a deep psychological level what you're all about. But these epiphanies, they demand discipline, not courage, but courage as well, you could say, but it's more the discipline and structure because of the Saturn energy here as well. So it's a reality check. You could have an idea, but you will have to make it work on a practical way, which is like, for instance, you can have an idea and to sell your house, but then a lot of practical stuff will have to happen. And also a lot of stuff, paperwork, for instance, Mercury, Saturn. Then Sagittarius, this is in your second house and in your third house. So the second house where Mercury, Pluto is, this is all about your value. This is all about how you earn your money, how you are dealing with that in improving the realness and structure, because it's Capricorn, of your financial situation. So this could really mean an improvement here, especially if you did the hard work to do that and to think about it, but also take actions towards your finances, that you have shifted doing things differently. This now Mercury going direct with Pluto can mean a real shift, an improvement. Let's hope an improvement of your financial situation. Also, you being more you. And why is that? Because the second house is a house of confidence, of the self-confidence that is coming from the self, that is not coming from someone else. So if you've been working hard on that, this can really mean that your value goes up. That it's a bit of, it's not a bit, it's a lot of understanding that you are the prize, and especially if you worked hard on yourself to improve yourself, this is the reward. You could do also buying something that is quite big, right? With Mercury, Pluto there, and that's going to give you a lot of value for the long run. Then this Mercury shifts into your third house, which makes it much more social. Mercury in the third house, so especially if you have your own business, Mercury in the third is very good because it's a lot of conversations, a lot of email, a lot of talking to clients, for instance, a lot of working on the website or whatever that is that you have when it comes to a social network and or platform or PR to make that happen. It could mean short traveling and so on. So it could mean that you have epiphanies there with the Mercury first squaring Uranus, but then when it the last week of February, it's more like, hey, how am I making it happen? And I must solidify this. So it can not only mean short trips, but also conversations and connections with neighbors and with siblings. It's about seriousness here. It's about fairness because it's in Aquarius, but it's also about being responsible and being really mature. That was a word that I am looking for. Then Capricorns. This is happening in your first house, the Mercury, Pluto, and then it shifts into your second house. So this is all about you. This is about your life path. I've been stressing that and emphasizing that, not stressing that, but emphasizing that in the December horoscopes, that with Mercury, Pluto in the first house, you have an opportunity to reprofile yourself in a totally different way. And people are saying, what the hell has happened with this Capricornian? And it's a lot about take it or leave it. You could have some confrontations, but you are ready to take them because Pluto is in your first house. So the power is with you. You are way more powerful than you think in expressing yourself. And when the intention is good, you cannot go wrong. And so when you have in your profession, for instance, when you need to influence people, when you need to do that, this is a really empowering energy. But again, it all comes from what is your intention and the energy behind your message that you have. It can really not only change you so much, but also other people around you. Definitely, you might be revealing some secrets. You might be also talk about your own vulnerability, something what a Capricorn seldomly does. And because of that, it shows so much strength. It's the same as someone who's always showing themselves or their personality is like, oh, I always need help, right? And all of a sudden, they don't need help. That is so much more powerful, that message. For you, it's the other way around. You're always, I mean, in general, the Capricorn's always very self-sufficient and they don't want any help. And, vulnerability, oh, that's not so good. But now it's the other way around. And that can, in the long run, be very, very good for you. Mercury then shifts into your second house, where Aquarius is, and a lot of thoughts on your confidence and on your money. So there could be a new idea, and that is related to your work, and that is related to a project. And you could be having that. And because of that, you will restructure your finances, Mercury with Saturn in the second house. So it can be a bit tough there because it needs discipline. But again, as Saturn is your ruler, you can make it work. You can make a difference here to improve your financial situation for sure. And you've got a little bit of time here to really, when you are faced with reality, that you can really take some steps. That takes really maturity to do so. Mercury, Saturn. Aquarians, of course, this Mercury, Pluto is in your 12th house. I've been talking about that in the December horoscopes. So that is a bit tricky when it comes to your old patterns that hopefully now you understand them a little bit better because the Mercury went backwards and forwards there. So you might have had some really blind spots revealed for you. That's not always nice. I mean, yeah, it's easier said than done to do something with that. And it's a lot about things that you are hiding for yourself. Truths that you are hiding for yourself might now come out. And when you embrace them, they can help you with a more stable life, with a more truthful life, and with a more real life. And because you have battled those secrets for yourself. And it's the transformation of that. You could also have been dealing with the things that you were doing to escape life, to tackle that and to see it right into the face. And then it doesn't become secret anymore, of course, because you put light on it. And with light now, it's not so much the sun that is passing there now, but it did in the past, but it's Mercury, which is insight and understanding. So that will help you when Mercury comes into your sign, dear Aquarians, and happy birthday, by the way, for lots of Aquarians. With Mercury in your first house squaring up to Uranus, it's definitely new ideas that you have for your life, for your purpose, for your path, for yourself, for others. You know, remember the first house is everything. It's but with Mercury also bumping into Saturn, it will demand discipline of you. It will demand maturity. It will demand some sort of seriousness, definitely towards the end of the month. But if you do that, for the long run, you're putting structures there that are going to serve you for the next 30 years, right? So interesting. Last but not least, Pisceans. Pisces, this is happening in your 11th and your 12th house. So this Mercury-Pluto, there's definitely something going on in your 11th house when it comes to your friends and when it comes to your aspirations for the future. Very future-oriented house where it's going to be like, I understand it now. So it could relate to a friend or a group of friends that is a transformation going on there. An ending could be possible, definitely when it was toxic and not healthy for you or for them. So you might be giving too much to them and putting them on a pedestal. Of course, this is an invitation of unhealthiness in the connection, or the other way around. It doesn't matter what it was, but this is an energy of cleaning up, you could say, and of understanding that there is something better out there for you, better friends for you. If it's not so much on the friendship level, it could also mean that a friend was in a very difficult place and you helped them, and that has transformed not only them but also you. It could also mean that there's an ending and a new beginning with a friend. So a dying of, for instance, you could say we're just friends and we're getting into a relationship, a love relationship. So that's also a transformation. So that could be going on for you as well, that a friend becomes a little bit more than a friend. And then this Mercury goes into the 12th house of Aquarius, the later part, so the second part of the month. And that is familiar for you, but that can mean that there is an idea coming up for you out of the blue, really out of the blue, during your sleep. So it's definitely those ideas that you have whilst you are sleeping. Mercury squaring up to Uranus in your 12th house. But to make it practical and to have some good understanding of that, it's not going to be the easiest because Mercury is going to approach Saturn. But again, it's about a decluttering of old structures of yours, old patterns of yours that are not working for you anymore. So you've been working on that with the Saturn in your 12th house, which is in its joy. Saturn in the 12th house is a cleaning up planet, you could say, of old patterns that old patterns that we are not knowing of, and because of that we use them to escape. And now with the Saturn there, it's like maturity. It's thinking about them, how you can release them, but in a very rational way, because don't forget, Aquarius is a rational sign. It's an air sign. So some very interesting epiphanies that you're going to have about yourself, about the deep patterns that are your programs. You know, it's the programming in the head that you're saying, what is happening here? And how on earth am I going to attack this? Or how on earth am I going to restructure this? Well, it's possible, definitely with Mercury on Saturn. And it is in the attitude of every single day I'm going to do a small thing to improve this part of myself. Having said that, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much, dear astrology friends. See you next time. Bye-bye.